I'm very grateful that Mindy Scheier has blessed us for a second time. And Mindy, I was looking up when you were here, and you were here on the April summit. We started March 2023. Some women didn't even know about us yet. So you are OG OG. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You are OG OG. And I mean, I had the blessing of meeting you prior because you're in fashion, and I've got to bring you up to speed on what's going on with Ocean. He's really doing it, and all he wants to do is cut and sew all day. But that's another story. But I'm super grateful. And this is the power, I think, of consistency and staying on passion. When we first met, it was April, and we were hoping that this was going to serve, right? We are now, 1 year later, you know, you look fabulous, by the way. What are you doing? So I want a private chat. But we have had over 5,000 women and those that support women come here. We have hit 34 million media impressions, 450 speakers, 262 women in a book. Now they don't want this to stop. So now we're continuing it. It's into a movement. And now our book has been chosen, and we will be standing there handing it out at the Emmys in 2024, of which your picture of you and your family is gorgeous in the book. And I can tell you, because I haven't seen the book. No, I haven't seen it. And it's just kind of, no, it's really beautiful. So I just want to properly introduce you, because that's what I'm going to do. So if you do not know Mindy Scheier, she's the founder and CEO of Run, Rate, and Dreams. You might hear us say ROD. That's what that is. She is making fashion inclusive for individuals with disabilities. Prior to establishing this foundation in 2014, she spent 20 years working in fashion on the design team for Ink Collection and a stylist for Saks Fifth Avenue. Mindy was inspired to start Runway of Dreams for her son, Oliver, who I'm sure you will talk about today and share some insight onto beautiful Oliver, because he wanted to wear a pair of jeans like everybody else. So in 2016, Mindy partnered with Tommy Hilfiger to make fashion history, creating the first mainstream adaptive clothing line in the market. 2022, the Runway of Dreams fashion show was recognized as one of the top 7 shows by Forbes. Mindy's talent management company. Now, I always like, do I say it right or not? Gamut? Is it Gamut?
Gamut.
Okay.
Gamut. As it
Gamut. Thank you. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
A gamut, that's right, a gamut, represents people with disabilities and works with a diverse range of clients, including Adidas, Victoria's Secret, which I saw, I knew when you couldn't say anything, and I saw, and I was watching for it, and I saw it, and I was like, good on you, Foot Locker, Kohl's, and QVC. And not only that, but you hold quite a considerable position in whether companies can say they do adaptive clothing. So with no further ado, please welcome back to the Stand Up, Speak Up, Show Up Yes You Summit, where we are streaming 350 million people. We're so excited. Tell us about you. What inspired you to start this? What's going on, girl?
First of all, thank you so much. I always love being with you, and thank you to everybody that's tuning in. As you mentioned, I always was that little girl that dreamed of being in the fashion industry. There was no other choice or path for me, but I never just wanted to be a designer. I actually wanted to be a global brand. I always had very big hopes and dreams. I did study design. I worked in the industry, but life had a different plan for me, as my middle child, Oliver, was born with a very rare form of muscular dystrophy. And we learned early on that he was going to struggle with everyday tasks, one of which is the very thing I love more than anything, and that's getting dressed every day. For Oliver, it was a daily reminder of what he could not do, which are buttons and zippers, putting on shoes, tying laces, etc. So that was when I decided in 2014, when that little beautiful 8-year-old face came to me and said, Mom, I want to wear jeans. And I don't understand why everybody else gets to wear jeans except for me. And it was a true kick in the stomach moment, not only as a fashion designer, but as a mom, that I couldn't solve it because there was nothing out there that was stylish or mainstream or what the other kids were wearing. So I decided to take my background and have a tiny little small goal of changing the fashion industry to be inclusive of people with disabilities. And the Runway Dreams Foundation was born. Then from there, which is, you know, just as so beautiful, and I loved what you said about gratitude. And I'm going to take a little sidebar on that. Is it Sandra or Sandra?
It's Sandra.
Sandra, thank you, Sandra. That I remember when Oliver was born, people would say to me, you know, God gives you what you can handle, and you were really chosen. And he was a real surprise in his diagnosis. So we had no preparation that this was coming. And I used to get really angry when people would say that my internal reaction, I never voiced it, was, you know what? Pick another family. No, thank you. I don't want my poor baby to have to endure what he endures. But I will say now, on your beautiful gratitude message, I feel so lucky and so grateful every single day of my life that he was brought to us. As he changed the course of my life, both professionally and personally. And he opened up my eyes to the 1.8 billion people on this planet that identify with having a disability. Largest minority in the world, only minority that every single one of us could be a part of at any point in our life.
Wow. I know that Runway of Dreams is a not-for-profit. And we were talking earlier about you started a movement. I mean, we're in a movement. You know, when it happens with or without you, you're like, okay, I'm in. The days that you wake up and you're like, what did I start? And
yes,
there's
I had one of those yesterday, by the way.
Okay.
Yes.
And there's no exit. Like the exit strategy is not open for you because you start like the door, like you don't have any key that's going to fit it. And so all of that. So it is a not-for-profit. And then of course you have a profit. And what does it mean? Like, what other brands does Runway of Dreams kind of connect with and garnet and collaborate with?
So of the two companies, Runway of Dreams, I like to say, is the why brands need to think about people with disabilities as consumers, really understand the size of the market, the spending power of the market, and really identify that people with disabilities are people first. Gamut, the for-profit, really is the how. So Gamut is the one that will go in and actually work with the brands to help them modify their products to make them more wearable and accessible for people with disabilities, to bring people with disabilities in on the process, to lend a voice to how the product should be developed, as well as from a forward-facing perspective, that they should be in the marketing campaigns and on the runways and in advertising, etc. So beautifully, because Runway of Dreams as the nonprofit allows companies to really focus on any of their missions of either, you know, helping next generations, focusing on minority groups, etc. And we do that through our awareness campaigns, like our big runway shows. We also have college clubs in over 20 universities across the country. So we have brands. It's really a perfect match, because our brands that are on the runway right now, which are Kohl's and Target, Stride Rite, JCPenney, Neiman Marcus, Victoria's Secret, Tommy Hilfiger, are also clients of Gamut. So these companies are keeping it very authentic, that they're not just saying, oh, I'm going to put magnets in a garment and call it adaptive. They are actually doing the work. They are listening and growing from people with disabilities and really making an impact in the creation of a new category in the fashion industry, fashion and beauty now, thankfully, of adaptive.
Wow. When you said college clubs, what does that look like? Because I could hear someone going, what? What do you mean college clubs?
Yes.
Like, are you talking around? Is it people that are in fashion? Like, what is that?
So our college club program really came very naturally and organically, as we realized that it's amazing that we're putting on these extraordinary shows and making such an impact in the industry. But if we don't start focusing on next generation students, up and coming designers, then all of the work that we are doing, could potentially end when our time is up. And we really need to get next generations and generations behind them really going into the workforce with this mentality that this is a population that cannot be ignored. So in our college clubs, we really enlist kids from all different disciplines, that they don't just have to be fashion majors, because there's so many tentacles in the fashion industry. There's business, there's PR, there's marketing, there's, even fundraising, all of the different aspects of it. And these clubs come together. They have their own executive boards, and they are tasked with putting on their own adaptive runway shows. So they have to really go through the process of not only working with students with disabilities on campus and or affiliate clubs, so they're getting that direct connection, but they are then also really raising awareness to the mission of Runway Dreams.
That's amazing. I wanted to do something, just when I need to hear about that. I think people need to hear that. And what a great legacy piece. What a necessary legacy piece.
Yes.
Necessary legacy piece. Now, you said the word magnets. Now, unless you have played with adaptive clothing, you may not know what are some of the things that these designers are doing and what can be done. Because I know first time you were here, we saw some on stage with a video, but still we saw them wear it. But how is it that people are making adaptive clothing out of clothing that we may be pulling out of our own closets?
Absolutely. So before I even approached the industry, I needed to really, really understand and qualify my hypothesis that if Oliver was struggling with this at 8 years old, how in the world did the 1 billion people on our planet manage these challenges? So I did a year's worth of research. I went to schools and hospitals. I conducted focus groups, surveys, etc., and to really understand what were their commonalities between vastly different disabilities and clothing challenges. And fortunately was able to extrapolate that there were, and it really is 3 categories. Closures, so button, snap, zippers, hook and eyes are very, very difficult for the majority of both physical and cognitive disabilities. The second is the adjustability of the product. So in many cases within the discipline of a disability, like for example, muscular dystrophy has 40 different strains of muscular dystrophy that affect the body very, very differently. So if the clothing doesn't have the ability to adjust to different shaped bodies, then it won't work as well. So having that adjustability. And the third is really rethinking the way product goes on the body. Just because a t-shirt has classically always gone over your head and arms through the armholes doesn't mean that's the only way a garment can get on the body. So for example, for someone that will never be able to dress themselves and has to be dressed full-time by a caregiver, that's a very challenging task when you don't have the other person helping with the ability of putting that shirt on. So when you open it up in the back and you go in arms first and it closes in the back, that is a much easier way to dress another person. And also it gives the greatest gift that we could ever give anyone back, and that's time. During my period of research, I took a lot of time to spend with those that would never be able to dress themselves. And I witnessed one gentleman who had a spinal cord injury and was paralyzed from the neck down. And it took him 2.5 hours to be dressed. That's just being dressed. That doesn't include getting undressed. And this is what he has to manage every single day of his life, and 2 caregivers, mind you. So if we could minimize that process and maybe make it an hour, we just gave him an hour and a half back into his life to live and to be and to enjoy. And that was a driving factor. This is actually behind me is one of the first products we did with Tommy Hilfiger. So you can see it's his typical quintessential Tommy shirt, but behind the buttons are magnets. and the product closes on its own. But to the person viewing this, you would never know that there was anything different about this shirt, and that was extraordinarily important. I love Sarah, thank you so much, because it is dignity. It's dignity, it's ability, it's independence, and it's time back into people's lives.
Wow. So, when you came to this, I mean, you researched and you spent your time and you had your data and you had your numbers. You weren't coming out of this with like, hey, I think this is maybe conceptually a good idea. When you first hit the fashion industry, were they like, where have you been all our lives? We were so excited to hear this. Let us jump on board. Or what was that like?
I wish, yes. I think in the La La Land, fairy tale land, yes, that would have been a wonderful way to go, but it was more of good for you, what a great idea, but nobody's ever done this before from a mainstream perspective, so we can't take a chance on that. There must be a reason. So good luck to you, and we'll be cheering from the sidelines. So that was what I got a lot of. And I think I also shared this in previous conversations that we've had, is, this is something that I always love to impart upon my sisters out there, is that there's really no such thing as failure. It's feedback. And if they were telling me this, and I got this many times, then I needed to take a moment and think about another path that I can go down. I refused to have that be the end of the journey before I even started. So actually in the beginning, at that point where everybody was saying no, I was a for-profit. I didn't know anything about nonprofits. I actually really didn't believe that it should be a nonprofit, because I felt that people with disabilities were always automatically pigeonholed into poor them, let's raise money, and we'll make this happen. However, when I took my time out and I said, okay, what is holding them all up? What is really the stumbling block? Because I knew that the population would reveal itself. I knew that very quickly the marketplace would be revealed. So that's when I said, okay, what is my goal? My goal is to have people with disabilities included into the conversation of fashion and beauty, and that products should be made for them, with them, and for them. So once I kept that as my North Star, the path that I had to go down to take that money challenge off the table is that's when I became a nonprofit. Because if I was colossally wrong, and that everything that I had studied and all the data, and I was just wrong, anybody that went on the journey was going to get a tax deduction. And I just knew that I needed to go down that path to have the market reveal itself. And fortunately, that's exactly what happened very quickly. Well, within the first week of the Tommy product launching, it was sold out completely. And it was absolutely like the Tommy team suddenly was like, holy cow, yay, that we are the ones that did this, because this is a huge business opportunity. So that really catapulted then the reason why I then started Gamut, because there was a tidal wave of other brands, even other industries, that started reaching out to Runway Dreams and saying, okay, well, how do we do this? We want to get involved. We want to have people with disabilities in our campaigns and marketing and blah. And it became very clear that another company needed to be born. That was Gamut Management, to really be the for-profit that I had originally wanted. It just wasn't the right time, or, it wasn't going to make the trajectory happen, but this was the right time. And fortunately, it has been an extraordinary journey, not always an easy one, as you mentioned, but one that I am so grateful for every minute of every day.
Wow. So much in there, so much to unpack. And anyone who's been a part of any project or startup or attempt or what have you can feel it. I mean, you can feel the story. The story is robust. That is a robust story. So how is it defined now? So you have a wave of people that see this as an opportunity, they see the need, they want to come on board. I mean, sometimes things collapse because of growth, right? Too fast growth. So what is the criteria now? How does that define? Take us there.
So I will say that, so we're from the Runway Dream side, we're about to celebrate our 10-year anniversary, which is really exciting. We survived a pandemic. We're still going. So yes, I will take that. Thank you. And Gamut, is we're still here and still going and growing. But I will say that a big shift has happened during the course of this time from nobody's done this before, so I really don't think that we're going to get involved in that, to FOMO. Now brands are coming to us and saying, are we too late? Did we miss out? What were we thinking? It's everybody's talking about people with disabilities, and we don't even, include them in our DEI strategies. It has been, I love that somebody just said about the wake up call, because that's really what it has felt like, certainly over the past year, that brands are realizing that, are they really being inclusive if people with disabilities aren't even a part of that statement, as the largest minority in the world, is really mind-blowing now to them, which is wonderful, because that's where we can then come in and say, no problem, here we are to help you. But it is, I would say that we have made extraordinary progress going from one brand in 2016 to we're up to about 12 mainstream brands now that are solidly in the adaptive category. Is amazing, but we have work to do. I mean, this is just, and I'm here for it, I'm game for it, but it's really the next generations and generations after that that are really going to make the change happen.
I had a question for you, and maybe you just answered it, and it's kind of that future question where it's like, one, what can we do? We're a collective, we're strong, we've got lots of that. So I'd like to answer that, but you're talking about that next generation, like what is a major change that you'd love to see, like, in your next 5-year plan? We all kind of run off that 5-year plan. What is it, the change you want to see? How can we play in that if you need us to?
Why, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Well, first of all, I'm a very big believer in everything starts with conversation. And hopefully after our time together, maybe tomorrow when you're in your own businesses, you say, you know what? I heard this amazing story, and especially following the last speaker, about the importance of inclusion of people with disabilities as a business opportunity. Are we thinking about that? How are we servicing this population? And because there really isn't a business out there that couldn't do better to include people with disabilities. It's just pretty much a fact. So I would so appreciate just continuing to think and talk and share, reach out to me for sure. I would love that, because our goal with both organizations, but specifically with Gamut, is to really have brands understand that this is the future and they need to get on board. There are statistics out there that say, not sure in my lifetime, but in very shortly after that, there may be more people on the planet with disabilities than not. Every demographic that is qualified, every next generation is increasing about 20% of people with disabilities. So we are not forward thinking if we are not thinking about, how's my product going to be sustainable if there's more and more people that are going to need, alternative ways to utilize everyday products, consumer goods. And also, of course, the aging population. I mean, that is something that if we're all lucky enough to get to that stage of life, boy, are we going to need this. Arthritis is the number one disability under the disability umbrella. The largest, the deepest, it can happen at any point in your life, actually. It's more, profound in the older years, but we're all going to need this at some point in our life. So my ask and request is, I'd love to keep in touch, and please, feel free to go to our websites, runwayofdreams.org, gabbittmanagement.com, and would love to connect and grow and learn from all of you. But we can most certainly do this together.
Wow. Now I have to ask, because it's Runway of Dreams and you do these incredible, I know that Catherine O'Leary
Yes.
was, you gifted for her. I mean, you can't say goodbye without telling us how we can go watch a really cool runway. Like, do you, what,
Yes,
like,
I mean,
do
we
you do
would
a
love
yearly
to.
gala, or do you do something like we
Yes.
can all get together and get a table or two? And
Oh, yes, that would be
yeah. Tell
amazing.
me,
Yes,
tell
let's get
me.
the collective. It's September 9th, in New York City. Again, this is our 10-year anniversary event, so it's definitely going to be our biggest. And it's always amazingly packed with, celebrities, influencers, but notables from the industry, and most importantly, people with disabilities. It is an extraordinary, if I may be so bold, I think people leave our events with fresh eyes of, holy cow, who makes up our earth and our planet, and how spectacular they are, and the confidence and the comfortability in their own skin of the 77 models that go down the runway with all different types of disabilities, ethnicities, that are there and proud and ready to, show the world who they are. So I would absolutely love it. I will share information with you as soon as it's available, but would love to see everyone there.
Well, absolutely share it this way, because we can forward that. I would imagine on your website, is there a newsletter people can go to and they'll get informed of everything that
Yes.
you're doing?
Yes, you can go to contact and then it will be pushed out that way.
Fantastic. And is there anything else before we wrap up and let you get
No,
back to
I mean, I
making
don't know how much
dreams?
time we have, but if anybody has any questions, I'll certainly take, if we have time, maybe
How
one.
about we do one question, because
Okay.
we're over,
Okay, yeah. Or you can email me.
It's okay. How about one question? Someone have one question? Wow. That's unusual.
You're
Kathleen?
speechless.
Yeah, so good. You know what? It's not so much a question as it is maybe a share. And I'm just going to say you're touching my heart.
Mhm.
Because often when people have, and you know this, I'm preaching to the choir here, but short story, I had a brother that was quadriplegic at the age of 21, and he lived for another 28 years like that. And as a young man, we still traveled, we went places, we did things, and people tend to look at any kind of, problem that people have, and they think that you're dumb also, or that
Yes.
your mind's with it and you can't move. So, and we fed him, he could do nothing for himself. And I'm just so grateful for what you're doing, because, there he was, a young man still trying to find a way to live. And his shirt might have been crooked, or, the only thing we could get him in was sweatpants. And, if he went to a wedding or anything formal, we'd cut the back of jackets and piece it together and hope nobody saw it. And, just what you're doing for people's, own sense of self, and they've got it tough enough. And what you're doing and giving them that dignity back, I just praise you, and I'm so grateful for
Thank
what
you.
you're
And
doing.
thank you so much for sharing that story.
Yeah.
How beautiful. Thank you. And thank you so much for having me. It was an
No.
honor, as always.
Absolutely.